Star Trek's Wink of an Eye is one of these episodes that its strongest element is the concept of it. And Star Trek owes a lot to its great concepts as to its popularity and why it's so well respected within science fiction circles. And so in this one, the plot is very simple. It actually repeats a lot of elements that you've already seen in Star Trek. And quite simply, a on-the-ship show, which cuts costs, but so what? They had a cool narrative here that was entertaining and all that. Although there's a brief moment on an alien planet, but it's all studio shot and it's very quick. But anyway, the point of the plot, rather, is this is a stress call, so they go to see what's going on, and there's this message taped, and they watch it, and they see the people. They beam down, and there's no one there. There's this whole big city, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence of life, except for this, I don't know, mosquito buzzing around. Suddenly, one of the crew in a red shirt disappears right in front of McCoy's eyes, and oh no, what's going on? And they can't figure it out. They beam back to the ship, and then suddenly the ship's having all kinds of problems. Things are breaking down. They can't quite figure it out. And ultimately, Kirk and Spock begin to suspect something beamed up with us. We just aren't aware of it. And he keeps hearing the buzzing, and he begins to suspect, that's it. What is it? And eventually, he decides to sit down and have a cup of coffee and think about it. And something drops in the coffee. And suddenly everything begins to slow down. And then Kirk sees everyone's frozen still while he's moving around, can't get anyone to hear him or anything. And then there's this mysterious blonde woman in there. And he realizes this is the invader. And she explains what's happened. So she drugged him so that he can be like her, which is accelerated to hyperspeed. Apparently something happened. I believe it was a war, or no, it was a natural disaster on their planet that resulted in them developing this accelerated state, and they're stuck like that. And whatever it is in their water. So they were able to recreate this for the purpose of Kirk and the other crewmen. So, of course, here they are. They're super fast, so you can't even see them. And they're moving about, restructuring the ship and all this stuff, and that's why things aren't working and breaking down and all that. And the reason they're doing this is that they want to freeze the Enterprise to keep the crew in cold storage so that they can thaw them out so they can have sex with them. Because one of the problems is with their accelerated state, for some reason the men have become sterile and they can't reproduce, so they've lured in a species that's similar to their own, and they're going to use them to perpetuate their people, which wouldn't really be their people because it would be a mixing of alien DNA to their own, but, well, I guess that's what they figured they'd go with. It's kind of like you go all the way back to the Telosians in the cage, and their plot was to get Captain Pike and Vina to get it on so they could produce a new race of people for the planet, even though it's like, well, couldn't you just ask somebody to colonize it? You wouldn't, and it wouldn't be their people, So, I don't know, unless it was some means by which to jumpstart their own reproductive systems by borrowing, DNA and what from similar species, that perhaps they could do it. But, well, whatever. It's just not a great motive for these people, what were they, the Scalosians. And I wish they had a better one. It's almost like a cheesy, like, Mars needs women type thing. So she's picked Kirk. One of the other cute blondes picked the red shirt guy. Unfortunately, he, and supposedly this water was supposed to make them become docile And he said, I fought them at first, but now I'm agreeable. I think it's because he gets to make out and bang that hot blonde chick. So he's like, all right, I'm in. But he and Kirk struggle. Kirk gets stunned by them. And the red shirt guy just says, hey, wait. And he decides to defend Kirk, and he gets in a fight with one of the other guys. He gets a cut on him, and similar to Plato's stepchildren, if you get cut, it's over, buddy. Everything accelerates, and he aged within seconds, and he was just an old shriveled up corpse on the floor. Which just goes to show it's not a great existence. I mean, the slightest cell damage, they say, the slightest cut, and you're done, So seems like they'd be better to work at a antidote for their condition. Turns out Spock figures that one out for him and Kirk, because they figured out Kirk leaves them a message. Spock, of course, he's Spock. He figures it out. And then McCoy is able to work for work up a solution out of the Scalosian water, and Spock joins Kirk in their attempt to thwart their plot, and of course they do. And they beam them back down to their planet, and they say, "Well, you're just beaming us to our deaths." But couldn't you give them the cure? But the aspect, or the idea, the concept here is the hyperspeed. So it's like they all had the powers of the Flash, and that was interesting. There's elements in it where I think they kind of missed it here. There's a scene where the Spock tells Scotty to get to the transporter room, and so you see Scotty standing in the doorway. Well, a lot more stuff happens, and all the way up to the point that Kirk regains his normal speed and time or what have you, and suddenly appears before Scott. He's still there in the doorway, whereas other scenes, things moved a little quicker than not. So it doesn't quite add up to where they would be and whatnot. Another problem is the turbo lift. It seems like it would take days to them for it to go anywhere. And so I don't know, man. I guess they could have climbed out through the safety ladder or whatever, but and in some instances the door stays open because it's like, well, it's going to take a long time for it to appear to close and stuff. And then other times they have it open anyway, so there's some missteps here. But it's a cool concept, and it works. It's known for a scene that they managed to sneak past the editors. They weren't paying attention to things like Scotty in the door and stuff like that. But there's a scene where it's obvious that Kirk and this lady who's the leader of the whole group and a bit of a spoiled brat says, I want Kirk. She's already got a boyfriend, but she's like, she's tired of him. Besides, he's sterile, and he's just so frustrated. And very similar to the aliens from Andromeda, who reduced the crew to these little salt cubes or whatever. And it's kind of, he says, oh, the alien's mad and wants to kill Kirk and all that. Same thing here. But she and Kirk have a little rendezvous at Kirk's quarters, and then they cut to other scene. They come back, and there's Kirk sitting on the bed. She's combing her hair in the mirror, and or brushing it rather, and he's pulling his boots back on. So it's obvious they bumped uglies. Yeah. Now, yeah, I hope they were extra careful because the cell damage. Oh boy, there's just two rotting corpses laying in the bed, and the guy comes in. He's like, "Oh no, oh well, I warned her." But then there's that problem. They made Kirk like one of them. Wouldn't he go sterile? I don't know. But perhaps she's, there's a follow-up. Perhaps she is pregnant, and now they have a new child to raise. But it's just one, of course. So I don't know. Anyway, the motivation for wanting sex slaves, I guess, for them is a bit silly. But the hyperspeed thing was cool, even though they kind of dropped the ball here and there. It is a cool concept and element, and Yes, a classic scene. But it's a good episode. I know it's got its flaws, but it's a good Star Trek episode. And a cool scene where Kirk fires a phaser at her, and with the phaser so slow, she just gets out of the way. Even though that's like the speed of light, isn't it? Plus, no one in the bridge notices suddenly a phaser bolt flies through the wall. I don't know. Yeah. Plus, they said, beaming up, boy, it takes a long time. Jeez. How do you keep your sanity after going through that? I don't know. But, so anyway, of course, I imagine, the Federation, quarantine the planet. Don't ever go there. You'll have to deal with these mosquito people and stuff like that. But it is one of those things where, I suppose you could revisit it. But anyway, there you go. Wink of an eye. The show does not last the wink of an eye. It does last like the normal duration of a Star Trek episode. And it's a good one. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.